Hi guys, JP from FSiPanel. On that series of videos starting today, I will try to do some approaches randomly selected by FSiPanel. So FSiPanel will look at an airport and then we will have to pick the right runway according to the weather, and we fly the best approach that meets the weather criteria. So today we are going to start with some rain. I will put some rain and we will choose IFR, and the weather will be whatever it is. So we will check what kind of approach we get and in which part of the world. So in order to do that, we will use the random feature of FSiPanel, and we will use today the Fenix A320. On other video, I will be using other aircraft as well. So up to you. If you want another aircraft to be flown using FSiPanel with this kind of feature, just let me know in the section down below. All right, before I forget, please subscribe to the channel. That will help me doing more and more approaches for you. And without waiting, let's start FSiPanel and select an airport. All right, here we are in FSiPanel. I haven't selected any airport. As you can see, there is no airport there because we are still in the main window of the simulator. The idea here is to have a random airport selection. So we will go to select airport, we'll click on random, and now we have the criteria and we can change whatever we want. So today I said we will go in a rainy situation, and we want the flight conditions to be IFR. And for the runway, I will choose a runway between 2,000 meters to 3,000 meters. So we have, if we are lucky, a nice runway, and if we are not, we might have runway which is just good enough for the A320 today. So let's see if we get any airport with these conditions. And we do. We are getting a couple of approach there. We have a VOCL. I think this is in India, I think, if I'm not wrong. We have 2,000 meters rain, so we might try this, and temporary heavy rain. So why not VOCL? I have no clue what it is. Let's double click on it. And VOCL 340 at 7 knots, 2,000 meters, rain, scattered few CBs at 2,500 feet, 24 degrees. QNH 1009, we have temporary 1,500 meters with heavy rain. So with that kind of wind, the best runway will be runway 28, and we have a 3.2 degrees. So that might be, it's not too bad. So let's have a look at the approach chart. Let me bring Navigraph and we have a look at VOCL and what kind of approach we can fly with that weather. Okay, here we are. So let's go at VOCL. This is Calicut. Yeah, all right, I know this airport. I've been flying it many times. It's a difficult airport, especially runway 28. So yes, in India, as you know, there is a lot of rain in the monsoon. So here we have to be very careful when we fly in Calicut. Calicut has a runway which is not in a very good condition. As you can see here, we have only 2,800 meters available, and the runway width is 45 meters. Airport elevation is 343 feet. And let's have a look at the approaches. So for runway 28, we have the ILS Zulu, which is of course the best choice today with the weather, which has a, as you can see, a minimum barrow at 576. And if we will go for the RNP, we have 834. So what should we fly? Should we fly an RNP approach or an ILS approach? I think we're gonna try an RNP approach because it's more interesting, and you can see how we can set it up. So let's try that. So what we will program in FSiPanel, we will use any star in Calicut that give us ADLAX as a waypoint, and then what we will do is we will put ourselves a few miles from ADLAX on the 013, and we will program everything, and then we will brief the aircraft, we will brief the approach, sorry, in the aircraft, and we will be able to fly this approach. Hopefully we will see the runway. All right, so let's program that. Let me bring FSiPanel and we will program that position. I will first of all position the aircraft in Calicut on runway 28, and once this is done, we program the approach in FSiPanel. So Airbus 320 we set today VOCL, that's Calicut, and we go for runway 28, and we will fly it just before night time. That's perfect. Okay, here we are. This is runway 10, runway 28 is in the opposite direction. This is selected and we have live weather, so we will match what FSiPanel has found for us. Okay, that's good. And fly. Now the aircraft will be positioned and we will start FSiPanel to program our approach. All right, here we are in Calicut. Look at that, the weather is not that great today. We'll click ready to fly. It's raining, so we'll have to check carefully that we can land here. Before I forget, I will set the weight, because right now we have 10 tons of fuel. We usually never land with 10 tons of fuel unless you are diverting, and that will be the reason why you reach your destination with that amount of fuel. So let's put 5 tons, which is not too bad. It's even a bit too much depending on the alternate you have, but for the training purposes 5,000 is good. We have enough fuel to do a go around should we have to go around, and I will select 58 tons as the zero fuel weights. That's the only thing I need to do in the aircraft right now. So let's go to FSiPanel and program this approach now. Alright, as expected, we are in Calicut, runway 28. The weather is IFR. We are on the Fenix A320. So let's program that approach. So the best thing to do, select fix. Let's see if we have a star. We have no star in Calicut, all right? So we're gonna have to create the waypoint. Not a big problem, so let's do it together. We select the waypoint, we will create a new waypoint. And now for the waypoint, we are going to use the waypoint Add-Ons, which is on the approach chart. So we are going to pick a navigate. It is a waypoint. Make sure you select waypoint, and then you can type in Add-Ons, and you should find your waypoint, which is 14 miles from the airport we are sitting at, which seems to be correct. So then I can just click on it and select the waypoint. So now I have selected the waypoint Add-Ons as a reference. Now I need to select a radial and a distance. So as you can see on your chart right now, if we want to be south of Add-Ons on the same radial that we will fly outbound, so from Add-Ons we are going to fly 013 toward Bedin, which is the initial approach fix, which is the intermediate fix. Then we need to set up the opposite. So basically we should be on 193. So if we want to be south of Add-Ons, we are going to set the radial 193 from Add-Ons, and we can put ourselves, let's say, around 10 miles of 10 miles. Yeah, that's good. 10 miles from Add-Ons. And now we need to compute coordinate. When you do that, this is now the waypoint, which is exactly 10 miles on radial 193 from Add-Ons. Now you have to give the waypoint a couple of things. The altitude. So you can see right there that minimum altitude there is 4,300 feet. So let's put here 5,000 feet for now. The default heading, so it's going to be the heading we want to fly inbound, so that's going to be 013. And then the default profile, so at that stage we can be clean, gear up, flaps up, and we are going to give a name to this waypoint, so let's put Add-Ons 10, and I will put Calicut, so VOCL, and it's an RNP approach, so let's put RNP 28. That's it. Save the waypoint. My waypoint has been successfully created, and now we can go in the air. So to go in the air, select your waypoint that you can, by the way, share to the community. So if you want to pick up that exact waypoint and fly the approach by yourself, I will save it for you by doing this, and I will save it right there. VOCL 28. Done. And it's gonna be the download link will be in the section down below, so you can use it. Just drag and drop it on your main FSiPanel screen, and then you should see that waypoint if you're positioned in the Calicut on runway 28. Validate. I'm ready to move. So the aircraft is on the runway. We are going to click move aircraft, and let's go in the air. Okay, so now FSiPanel will prepare the approach. So as always, do not do anything. You will see the altitude going to 5,000 feet. The flaps are moving up. And when everything is ready, right now, you see set your thrust levers to climb the tent. And once we do that, we go in the air. So let's do that. Here we go. So now we should not do anything as always, just watch the show, let FSiPanel do the job, and then we'll program the MCDU and we brief the approach. Perfect. Now the MCDU will be set for you. Normally the flight plan FSI 001, the cost index, the cruising altitude is 5,000 feet. We're going to have the weight entered by FSiPanel as well. And then if there is an ILS approach, FSiPanel will set the ILS approach for you. So this is not what we are going to fly, so we will have to change it. Once everything is ready and we are reaching 5,000 feet, as you can see right now, FSiPanel will tell us that we can hold or brake for 3 seconds to take over the control. So before we do that, we are just going to insert the holding pattern at ADLAX, so it will give us time to brief that approach. So let's do that now. So what I will do is going in the MCDU and I will enter now the holding at ADLAX. So there is several ways to do it. We can try to insert the approach. So to do that, we will go to arrival and we are going to change the approach from ILS 28 to the AirNav Yankee 28. That's what we are flying today. And now if you click on VIA, right there, we have this waypoint ADLAX. So normally we should be 10 miles, as you can see, exactly 10 miles away from that waypoint. FSiPanel keeps us for the time being at that position, so that's fine, and I can insert this right now in my MCDU. Next thing I want to do is go direct to ADLAX. As easy as that, and now I'm going to put a holding pattern, so ADLAX, hold, and we are going to do the holding as depicted on the chart. So 013 is the inbound course. We have a right turn and we can fly 1 minute. Insert. Now we have the holding. The aircraft is nicely stable and I will take the control. So now to take the control, I hold my brake for 3 seconds and I have the control. So let's slow down the speed as we are in the holding, approaching the holding pattern. So we'll go to up speed. Then the FMC will tell us, sorry, the aircraft will tell us to go manage speed. For the time being, I will just reduce myself the speed, and we have the holding. As we are approaching the holding, we have the lights on, everything is good. So now we can take the time to prepare and to brief this approach together. Hopefully we will see the runway. And the pressurization now is good. This is what's happening sometimes when you position the aircraft with FSiPanel. There is a problem with the pressurization. It needs some time to catch up. Now it's done, so we have no more problem. If we go to system, everything is normal. Good. So let's brief this approach. Now we are going for the RNP approach Yankee runway 28 in Calicut. So if we start from the top, we can see that it's AirNav approach. The final course is 283. We have a mandatory altitude at position Abdir, which is 3,100 feet, sorry. Then we will start our descent. We have a 3.2 degrees glide path down to the minimum for LNAV and VNAV, which is 1160 that we will fly today. The airport elevation is 343 feet and the runway is 326 feet. Right now we are south of the airport. So the MSA here is 3,600 feet. We are maintaining 5,000 feet, so we are safe. And if we fly the approach as depicted, we should be safe if we maintain the altitude that are on the chart. If we go north of the airfield, we have to be very careful. 10,000 feet is the MSA, with a note that 4,300 feet within 10 miles. So remember, 10,000 feet, that's high terrain north of the airport. So if we go around, you can see that we are turning left. So that will be a climb straight ahead to 4,300 feet. Cross position VNAM, at or above 2,000, which will be no problem with 7 miles. Then turn left, direct to ADLAX and join the hold as directed. Perfect, so nothing too bad here. Everything is fine. So we will check now the MCDU versus the approach. So we have to make sure that everything is correct in our MCDU for this approach. So let's start from the ADLAX. So we are in the holding, then we go to bed in. As you can see here, we have a restriction. We should be 3,600 feet or below. So that's correct. Then if we continue, we go to ABDIR, which is a mandatory 3,100. So we have the 3,100 feet here, and we have a speed constraint of 160 knots maximum. And this is as well on the chart. So that's perfect. It's correct. Then if we go back to the flight plan after ABDIR, which is the initial approach fix, the final approach fix, sorry, will start our descent. So what is very important to check here is the glide path angle of the approach in the MCDU. So here you can see minus 3.2 and the chart says minus 3.2. So we are safe. Here you can have minus 0.1 or plus 0.1. So basically minus 3.3 or minus 3.1 will still be acceptable. If you have more than these, you cannot fly this approach, or you have to fly it using FPA, track FPA. Then the bearing as well, we can see 282. On the chart it says 283. Here we have a 3 degrees tolerance, so we can basically accept that as a good value. All right, now if we start with flight plan, we checked it already together. The next thing we want to do is basically we go like this in this MCDU. After the flight plan, we go to radio navigation page, and here what we can do is make sure we have Calicut, which is the VOR over the airport, as out tuned. So we can just go Calicut, and we will set the course inbound, which is 283, even though we are not going to use it. It's a good practice to have it in case you have a problem with your MCDU, with your lateral navigation. Then you can revert at least to some conventional navigation, and you already have a correct information on your display. So that's what we want to do. Now, after radio navigation, we go to proc page, and here we have a few things to check. First of all, make sure you see GPS primary. So means that the GPS is the primary source of navigation right now for navigation, and that the accuracy is high. Once we start the approach, I will try to show you later if I don't forget about it. This required 1 mile should become 0.3 miles on a normal approach. And sometimes even if you are flying AR, which is authorization required, so this is high precision approach, AirNav approach, where you have terrain like in some place in, let me remember what's the name of this place. There is one in Abu Dhabi that has this thing, and there is one in Nepal as well, Kathmandu, where you have this RNP approach, for example, AR. So here it might even go below 10 nautical miles, so it might be 0.15. So this is what the MCDU is taking right now as the minimum to have, and this is what is the estimated precision right now. So this number should always be lower than the required one. Then what we will check is the GPS frame. So you can see there when you click that from minus 15 minutes to plus 15 minutes based on an ETA at 12:30, we have all good satellite receptions to fly this approach. If in your NOTAM you get some outage, sometimes it says satellite number 5 will be on outage from that time to that time and on the day of your flight, then you have to deselect the satellite right here. So you will enter the number of the satellite as per your NOTAM, and then your MCDU will basically take all the other available satellites and will not use the one that you have deselected right here. So we are all good. If I go back to the progress page, one thing that is as well quite nice to have is the distance to final. As on your map display, you will only see the distance to the next waypoint. So here what we do is type in the airport code, Victor, Oscar, Charlie, and Lima. If I forget it, it's not gonna work. And the runway, so 28. If I do this, now I have the bearing direct to the runway and the distance to the runway. Okay, next we'll go to performance, and here what we will do is enter the approach value. So for that I will use here the AOC, the data link. So let's go AOC menu, weather request, and we are going to use VOCL, And meta, yes, we don't need the tough. Send, and hopefully we should have the weather right there. So as expected, let's see. Oh, we have runway 28, 1,500 meters. Okay, RVR runway 28, 2,000 meters. So we are going to check as well on the chart if we can fly actually the RNP approach. Maybe we have to change our mind. The wind 050 at 5 knots. Okay, so that's not too bad for the wind, and clouds, CBs, overcast. So the ceiling is not too bad. The ceiling is overcast 8,000, 23 degrees over 22, 1010. All right, so let's put that into our approach there. So I'm gonna put the QNH, which is 1010. Then the temperature is 23. And the wind is 050 at 5 knots. Right, now the minimum for this approach is 1160, which I try to set for you right there. It doesn't want to set it. All right, I have to move a little bit sometimes. Good, 1160. So now for the approach, we need a visibility of RVR 2,400 meters. Okay, so we don't have the RVR that allow us to fly this approach. So that's not good. We're supposed to revert to the ILS, request the ILS. If not, with that kind of wind, we might have a look at the runway 10 and see if we can land on runway 10, maybe you doing an RNAV approach. But here for the training purposes, and again just for the training purposes, we are going to try this approach disregarding the RVR. All right, but remember, right now, if we would be in real life, not in a training, we would say no, we cannot fly this approach. Then we have to change our mind, go for the ILS or go for the other side. Maybe you can do the ILS runway 10 as the wind is light and variable. And if it's not possible, you'll have to divert, or if you have some fuel, wait and hope that the weather will improve. So in that case, we are going to give it a shot and we might have to go around. Remember, this is for training purposes, and this is the only reason why we will do it now today. All right, so let's continue our briefing. We have done everything. We have the secondary flight plan. Here you could already put your alternate in case you have bad weather. So you know already that it's ready in case you go around. You can just activate it and go to your alternate. So the MCDU is ready. We have checked everything. And now the next thing to do is to fly the approach. So we briefed everything. So let's go ahead and fly the approach. So we are ready. As you can see, we're approaching position ABLAX. So what I will do now in the FMC, I will just go to flight plan and I will exit the hold. That tells the aircraft that after ABLAX now she can fly the approach. She wants me to go manage speed. So if I go to performance, I still have the activate phase. So now if I will go manage speed, she will increase the speed. So do I want that? Not really. So either I activate the approach but I stay in manage, or you can delay the approach speed. So what I'll do, I just activate the approach, that's it, and I will keep control on the speed. All right, now the next altitude we can go. So ADLAX 4,300, that's the altitude. So I will set 4,300 here. That's the next altitude I could go by ADLAX. And now if I tell the aircraft to descend, you can see that she has an altitude constraint. So that's a good idea now to press constraint, and you can see what are the constraints. Next altitude will be 3,600 or below at bedding. So let's put 3,600. And by the way, you can see the very nice terrain that we have in front of us. So it will be a very bad idea to start descending now with vertical speed, especially if you're an IMC. So if I put terrain on display, we should get some very nice depiction in front of us here. So this is why we have this altitude restriction. Great, so we are passing ADLAX. Everything looks good. I give clearance to the aircraft to descend to 3,600 feet by bedding. I'm in descent mode now. So as long as I'm in descent mode, I could set lower altitude down to the mandatory point, which is 3,100. You can follow all the steps if you want, or you can set 3,100. Make sure though that you are in descent, manage descent. If you are flying this in vertical speed or FPA, then you might screw it up big time. So if you're flying in descent and you checked, as we did before, the constraint, you're safe. Distance to the runway, I told you I want to show you that. If you go to progress page, now you have the distance to your runway, so that's a good indication where you should start configuring the aircraft. So around 12 miles, I will start with the flaps, as my speed is already low, so I'm already to the up speed, so no need to worry, we are good. So turning final, let's go flaps 1 now. And now that I go flaps 1, I will give manage speed and the aircraft to reduce to S-bug. AirNav Yankee 28. So we have a mandatory point 3,100 at position up here. So we'll check that as well. And then during the approach, we will check sorry, the steps. So the DME versus altitude. And if you didn't see my previous video about how easily you can be trapped on this kind of approach, have a look in the video. The link is in the description down below. And it's very interesting. Even though everything looks normal on your PFD and map display, you can be way off during an AirNav approach if you don't do the correct procedure. So this is a good video to watch if you haven't done it yet. All right, let's continue our configuration. We're approaching Abdir, where we will start our descent. So let's go flaps 2. And now I will maintain the speed for now at 160 knots. So I will take speed manage and we will go 160 knots. Here we go. So the 3,100 is good. We are nicely established. I can arm the approach. And when I arm the approach, I should have AppNav final armed in blue. And we should get final approach anytime soon when we come to Abdir. So let's see that happening now. Altitude captured. And final approach. Perfect. So final approach, manage speed, flaps 3. Once you leave your final approach fix, you can set your missed approach altitude. So in our case, 4,300 feet. So I would set 4,300 feet in case of go around, and we can go flaps full. All right, let's see. Now we can do the landing checklist. So go around altitude 4,300 feet set. Then the cabin crew is advised, and the ECAM memo, we have not yet the landing, so we're gonna wait for that. That's the only thing remaining. Perfect, going down so we can check our step. This is now based on the runway. So at 6 miles, we should be 2420. So we are coming to 6 miles. 2420, it's perfect. Now we are looking for the next one, which is 5 miles, 2080. So 5 miles, 2080. Gear down. 2,000 feet. And 5 miles. We were good. Next will be at 4 miles, 1740. And now we have the landing memo, no blue, so all good. Continuing down to 4 miles, we check 1740. Look at that, it's perfect. Next is 3 miles, 1400. So 3 miles, 1400 is the next step we want to check. Three miles, perfectly on 1400 feet, and now we are going down to the minimum. So passing 1000 feet, make sure you are stabilized, make sure you have missed approach altitude, and we are getting ready for a possible go around. 100 above, I see nothing in front. Okay, no contact, go around, toga, flaps 3. Positive rate, gear up. Level climb. Flaps 1. Nav. Speed check. Flaps up. Flaps are up. Again, those lights were off, sorry. Should be on for the approach. That's my mistake. And we are good. Perfect. So we have done the approach. Unfortunately, we were not able to land. So what are the options now? We have to look if we can do another approach. So we will pick up the ILS and we will try. So let's see what kind of approach we have available on that runway, on that airport, sorry. So let me bring the chart again and we see what are our options now. We are maintaining 4,300 All-Star. The aircraft is flying nicely on the missed approach. So let's bring Navigraph and see what we can do now. Okay, so what can we do? If we go the ILS, we're gonna have a minimum at 250 feet. We need RVR of 1,600 meters, even though it's a very, very complicated here. If we go for runway 10, same thing, it's gonna be 250. So basically, we are very close to the minimum. Now we will assume that the visibility has improved to 1,600 meters and 250 feet. So now what we will try to do, we have no low visibility here. So we are going to fly now this ILS 28 instead of the AirNav approach, and hopefully we can land. So let's prepare that in the MCDU, and we will assume that we told ATC that's our intention to fly now an ILS approach, runway 28, ILS Zulu. Very nice colors here, by the way. Incredible. This weather is nice, and it's typically India. I flew a lot in India, and I can tell you that when you have these rains, this season, like now, well, you have this approach where you barely see the runway at minimum, and this is standard. And Calicut doesn't have low visibility, and the runway itself is going up and down and has a lot of hold. So it's quite a nice airport, and it's a tricky airport. All right, so prepare the ILS. What we're gonna do to prepare the ILS? Okay, flight plan, destination, arrival, and we do the ILS Zulu runway 28. Insert. Now if I go to perf page, you can see that I'm on the go around page. So what I need to do is again activate the approach. Now that this is done, we have the same wind, everything is the same. We just need to set our minimum. So the minimum now for this ILS is 576. Done. And basically the MCDU is done. The auto brake, let's go medium because the runway is wet like crazy and a lot of rain, and we are good to go. So now everything is done. We will brief the ILS and then we can fly the approach. Now the aircraft is going on its missed approach, so no worries, everything is fine. If we look in the flight plan, you can see that she's going to add lags to join the holding, and then after that we have our ILS approach. So somewhere in between we will take over the control, fly with heading, and establish ourselves on the ILS. Alright, so let's brief this ILS Zulu runway 28. So the MSA basically is the same. Now we have to check the localizer course, which is now 109.5. So what we will do here is push LS and LS. Then we can see here 109.5 is correct. Then the final course will be 283. Then at 3,100 feet at 8.2 miles, we will start our descent. We have a 3.2 degrees glide path, non-standard, going down to the minimum, which is 576, and it's a Cat 1. Should we go around, climb straight ahead to 2,600 feet, then climbing left turn again to the VOR this time, and join the hold at 3,600 feet, or as directed. Auto brake is medium. We have the landing speed set, everything is done. So we are ready for the other approach. So now that will be our second approach in a row. If we've missed that one, some airlines will tell you if you go miss 2 times, if you go around 2 times, you have to divert. We are not playing around 3, 4, 5 approaches, and that becomes dangerous. So what we do usually, you try your chance a second time, you try your luck. If it works with the best possible approach, if you have time even to wait maybe for the showers to move away, then it's a good thing to do. And then if unfortunately you have to go around the second approach, then most probably we'll have to divert to our alternate. So let's hope we can land now in Calicut. If not, we will divert the aircraft. So obviously, hopefully it works. All right, so MSA on that part is 3,600 feet. So I will descend 3,600 feet as we have no ATC service here. So minus 1,000 feet per minute, that's fine. And we are going to go heading mode so we can maintain present heading. And now what we will do, we will go direct to the final approach fix of this ILS. So if you go to your flight plan, you will find it here, Fox India 28. So if you go direct to Fox India 28, now you can see the aircraft wants to go right there directly to this point. This is not what we want to do. Instead of that, we will use the radial inbound, which is basically the opposite of your localizer course. So the localizer course here on runway 28 is 283. So we need to go on 103, right? It says 102, which is within the 3 degrees. So you can accept that and then click insert. Right now, one thing to be careful, if you are on radar vectors, you see that nav is arm. So the aircraft, whenever you cross this course, will revert to nav, but we are not clear for the approach. So what you will do is just pull again your heading bug to make sure you are only in heading and you can comply with ATC instructions. Good. So this is done. Now we are on downwind. We can see this is the point where we want to establish ourselves on final, and we should be at 3,100 feet if we want to be on the glide slope. So what I will do is once I turn base here, I will start to reduce the speed and I will descend to 3,100 feet. Again, if we go to the prog page, we can see here our distance direct to the runway. So of course, right now this distance will increase, and what you can see there is your lateral distance to your final track, to the runway, basically extended center line. So 6 miles left. So that tells us as well, when you're on vectors, that you have plenty of time to slow down and to descend to 3,100 feet. That number is a very good help as well to let you decide how much time do I have if they turn me a beam Fox India 28. Am I too high? Am I too fast? You can add those 6 miles to the final distance that you have from here, which is R8. So basically we are 14 miles from landing if we will go if we will turn a beam the Fox India. So we'll do that exactly. I will turn exactly a beam Fox India, then we will start our descent toward 3,100 feet. And we will establish ourselves on the ILS, and hopefully this time we see the runway and we can land. Because night is coming as well, so let me dim a little bit here the screen. By the way, another thing I want to ask you guys, some people told me that they would love to see live streams. I tried to get set up for that, so let me know if that's a good idea, if I should start live stream, and if I could demonstrate some approaches, and you will decide what kind of approach you want me to do, and we could do it all together. So let me know if that's something that you'll be interested. Okay, we're turning on base, and I will start a shallow descent toward 3,100 feet with the vertical speed minus 500 feet, minus 600, that's fine. So the base heading, we could take anything. Let's put heading north initially, and then we will of course cut the corner here, as we are not supposed to intercept our localizer with a 90 degrees intercept angle. Okay, my distance 3.4 miles. When you see here 2 miles latest, this is the right time to turn left. This is what I use when I give vectors in the simulators to the students. So let me show you how nicely it works. Let's go flaps 1. And once you have 2 miles, we will take an heading of 313, which is basically 30 degrees intercept. Okay, 2 miles, tell them you turn 313, or let's say 310. And from 310, you are clear for the approach. So now you can simply arm your approach, second autopilot, and that's it. See how it worked? Perfectly well. So 2.5 to 2 miles, and you get very perfect vectors. All right, localizer is captured. Glide slope is alive. We're expecting the glide slope at 8.2 miles. You can see the distance right there. So if everything goes as planned, once we have 8.2 miles, we should get a glide slope captured. And the aircraft will descend. So that looks not too bad. We are good. Let's go flaps 2. Set missed approach altitude. So here you can see my missed approach altitude is lower than my actual altitude, but as glide slope has been captured, it's not an issue with the aircraft. She will go through. Radio altimeter is alive. And we are going down. So we will be stabilized latest by 1,000 feet as it is IMC. So we are flaps 2. Let's go gear down. Arm the speed brake. And this time I will set the lights. Great, this is done. Flaps 3. Flaps full. Here we go, fully established, missed approach altitude set. Okay, let's do the landing checklist. So go around altitude 2,600 feet set, cabin crew advised, ECAM memo, landing no blue. Landing checklist completed. Let's hope we see the runway this time. As well, if the light becomes darker, like if we are getting toward the night, you might have more chance to see the runway. So that's as well a good point for us. So let's see what's happening here. We are going down, coming to 1,000 feet. We are fully stabilized and we have the missed approach altitude set. Minimum is 576, so I hope we see the runway now. And we will see if MSFS has as well modeled the runway that is going up and down. That was very interesting in real life. So let's see if this is this case in the MSFS. All right, I see some terrain in front. Now we are trying to look for the approach light. I can see the runway, barely see the runway. I hope you can see it in front of you here. We can see the approach light, 500 feet. Perfect.
100 above.
We are good. Landing, continue landing, autopilot off.
300.
And now we go for the landing.
$100, 50, 40, 30, 20, retard.
And reverse. And we have decel. Perfect. Decel is there, speed brake is used, and we are going to 60 knots out of reversers, manual braking, and we'll take second to the right here if we can. And that will be it. We made it. So here on that scenario that we created by going random, we had to do a go around. That can happen, of course, in real life, and especially in India. This is typically something that you will experience in the monsoon season. And that was interesting. We flew RNP approach, then go around, and we came back for the ILS approach, and the weather is really not good here. So let's see if the wiper in fact improves something. I don't think so. Alright, so we landed. We're gonna have a look at the landing reports. I had the feeling that my landing was a bit hard on the rain here. We'll see. Okay, so vacate the runway, do the after landing flow. I will let FSiPanel do that for me. So let's do the after landing flow, and then we will see what happened in the landing report. And we are just going to park right there. The APU should be starting. Let's park right here. Taxi light off. Here we go. This is for the ground crew, so they are not getting annoyed by the landing lights, by the taxi lights, sorry. And let's park this aircraft nicely here. I don't have any scenery. This is the default Azobo scenery for Calicut. I was not expecting to fly there. It was a complete random scenario, but that's good because I flew to this airport, so it was very nice to be able to do it again. Alright, so we are going to stop right there. Here we go. Set the brake. Turn off the wiper. APU bleed will go on, and we can turn off the engines. Off, and the seatbelt sign goes off, the beacon light goes off, the fuel pumps are going off, and our transponder is going off as well. All right. Parking checklist. The parking brake hot shocks, we have the parking brakes on, the engines are off, and we can see that the N1 is dropping. Wing lights, all the lights are off, and the fuel pumps are off. Parking checklist completed. That's it. So let's have a quick look at the landing report that we've done. So this is it, Calicut runway 28 with rain, 23 degrees. We were on center line. The landing distance was good. We were close to our landing, was not too bad, 400 feet per minute. And the rest was good. We were flaps full with the auto brake medium. And that's it. Here you see the autopilot disconnect height. This is based on the radio altimeter. And in Calicut, you have some obstacles, some terrain just before the threshold. So we were in fact higher when I disconnected the autopilot. But the radio altimeter was probably showing 90 feet at that stage. Threshold 138. This is completely wrong, obviously. And we have the maximum rate of descent 257 feet per minute, so that looks good. All right, so the approach itself was not too bad, and we can see that the tracking was okay, slightly high there when I disconnected the autopilot. And what I found in MSFS, especially on the default Azobo scenery, that sometimes the PAPI is completely wrong. I don't know if you have the same feeling, but sometimes you're perfectly established on the ILS and you see 4 white and you're like, it doesn't look right. For me, that's something they should improve. All right, we managed to land the aircraft in Calicut. It's getting night here, time to go to bed. Everything is safe. I hope you enjoyed that video. If you have any question or comment, please drop it in the section down below. And as always, stay safe and please subscribe to the channel. Thank you very much, guys. See you next time. Thank you. Bye-bye.